You ever had 3 cops show up at your door just because you didn't want to join a neighborhood association? Yeah, that actually happened to me. And no, I'm not talking about some friendly chat over lemonade. I mean, 3 guys in security shirts claiming to be community police waving around a so-called compliance order like they were deputized by God and the HOA Constitution. The kicker. The moment one of them touched my front gate, my little defense system zapped him so hard his hair did a Looney Tunes number. Another one caught sight of the Glock on my coffee table and turned pale, and the last guy glanced up at the security camera above the porch, then quietly moonwalked off. You'd think these people would have learned, but no, every second of their little intimidation tour was caught on tape, high def and crystal clear. See, my name's Ray Dobson, 52, ex-defense systems engineer, 25 years designing security for military bases. That kind of career makes you a little jumpy, sure, but it also means you know trouble when it's brewing. After I retired, I figured I'd earned a little peace. I bought myself this lakeside cabin out at Cedar Point, 3 acres of Texas freedom and 200 feet of water frontage. Just me, my boat, and a whole lot of nothing. The old owner warned me there was some voluntary HOA in the area, but voluntary means just that, right? Optional. I wanted nothing to do with nosy neighbors telling me what color mailbox I'm allowed to have. For 6 sweet months, life was good. I'd wake up to the sun rising over the lake, have my coffee out on the deck, tinker with the outboard motor, maybe read an old tech manual just for fun. Then the letter started. At first it was all sunshine and rainbows, a welcome note from Evelyn Maris, president of the Cedar Point HOA, inviting me to join her wonderful community. I wrote back polite but firm thanks, but I'll keep my independence. Did that end it? Not even close. The second letter was pushier. By the 5th, they'd swapped out "please join" for legalese about mandatory compliance and enforcement protocols. Jokes on them, though. I'd read the Texas HOA statutes cover to cover before I bought this place. My property was recorded before the HOA was even a twinkle in Evelyn's eye. Legally, they couldn't force me to join, no matter how much she huffed and puffed. But Evelyn wasn't the type to let a little thing like state law stand in her way. Found out later she used to teach community law at UT Dallas until she got canned for, you guessed it, conflicts of interest in another HOA meltdown. Now she ran some company called Neighborhood Solutions LLC, which frankly sounds like a fake ad between late-night infomercials. So yeah, I went full ex-military paranoia, wired up the cabin with facial recognition cameras, motion sensors, and a perfectly legal sheriff-registered electric fence around the gate. 12 volts, just enough for a friendly warning. The Glock stayed visible, Texas Castle doctrine, and all and everything else was above board. Didn't break a single law, but I sure wasn't planning on getting rolled. Then came the showdown. 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, my phone pinged security systems, flagged 3 men approaching white SUV out front with Highland security magnets slapped on the doors. They had matching uniforms, little community security patches sewn on, and swagger that just screamed "fake it till you make it." The leader, Marcus Webb, marched up with paperwork, flanked by his 2 backup dancers, Derek Sims and Tony Ricci. If these guys were real cops, I'd eat my own boot. Webb hits the intercom. "Sir, we're community enforcement officers here about your HOA violation. We need you to sign these compliance documents immediately." I kept it cool. "Officers of what department? Show me some badges. Maybe a warrant?" He flashed a homemade ID that looked like it was printed off clip art. "No need for warrants, sir. This is a civil matter." I deadpanned. Last I checked, HOA membership was voluntary and trespassing still a crime. Webb's jaw tightened, and he reached for my gate. That's when my little electric welcome mat lit him up, 12 volts, more embarrassing than dangerous, but you've never seen a grown man's hair stand up like that outside a cartoon. He toppled backward into my bushes, one shoe landing halfway across the driveway. Not my proudest moment laughing at another man's pain, but come on, you'd have lost it too. While Webb rebooted his pal Sims, peeked through my window, spotted the Glock, and nearly passed out, the note taped to it, "in case of emergency break glass." Or not. Didn't help his nerves. He started backing away, hands in the air. The third guy, Tony, was the sharp one he saw. My cameras realized the whole circus was being recorded and hissed at the others. "We need to leave." Webb's still picking twigs out of his hair, but Tony's already halfway to the car, muttering about being on video. I got on the intercom. "Next time, call first. And maybe wear rubber gloves." They peeled out no signatures, no tough talk. I downloaded the footage, started digging. The AI flagged Tony Ricci's neck tattoo, cross-referenced him in the database, and would you believe it, he'd been arrested for impersonating police in Arizona, still on probation. These weren't wannabe HOA volunteers, they were actual criminals, and they'd brought that mess to my doorstep. But it got worse. Webb, in his dazed exit, dropped a USB drive in my landscaping. I checked it carefully offline. What I found was enough to make my stomach turn. Operation Lakeshore Phase 1. There was a map of the whole neighborhood with every house color-coded red for high resistance, yellow for maybe green for easy, my place bright red. There were notes: former military, high technical capability, advanced protocols required. Each house had a dossier, personal info, income schedules, even kid and pet names. It wasn't an HOA recruitment drive, it was full-on intelligence gathering. A 6-month campaign with escalating enforcement and final resolution plans. And it wasn't just my house. I called Evelyn Maris. "You're missing something from my yard USB drive. Operation Lakeshore. Especially like the part about Phase 2 enforcement." She went cold and tried to bluff, but I told her this time we meet where I say and come alone. I called Sheriff Morrison, good man, straight shooter. Showed him the drive. His face got darker by the second. "Ray, this is bigger than HOA nonsense. This is organized crime." He ran background checks. The Three Stooges were all up to their necks in debt assaults, connections to crime rings. Meanwhile, I beefed up the security, set up extra audio recorders, called in a federal crime attorney. Turns out Neighborhood Solutions LLC had run similar projects in 8 places across Texas and Oklahoma, always strong-arming neighborhoods into HOAs, always just barely skating the edge of the law. Then I found photos on the drive me grocery shopping, talking to neighbors, even sleeping, snapped through my window. There was a hidden audio file too, Evelyn's voice. "If Lakeshore succeeds, we replicate it in 50 more places." This was a blueprint for swallowing up independent communities by force. Then came the call from Morrison, an elderly couple, Henry and Martha Kowalski, hit by the same officers, only this time they got physical. Martha ended up in the hospital with a broken rib. The officers used a smoke device, pushed past Henry, threatened them, pressured for signatures, even cased their home for valuables. They'd left behind a fake business card and a surveillance bug, the kind used to intercept cell phone calls. It all clicked. They weren't just pushing an HOA, they were casing houses for bigger hits. They'd done fake phone surveys, scoped out insurance and safe room details, set up surveillance, everything. Organized, methodical, and ruthless. Then it got personal. I came home to find my supposedly unbreakable security bypassed, front door ajar, handwritten note on the table. "We can get to you anytime. You have 48 hours to reconsider." That's when I stopped playing defense. I set up layered redundant systems, secure comms with Morrison, and started feeding false info on their bugs, making them think I was caving. That's when the FBI came in, led by Agent Sarah Mitchell. My evidence matched cases in 4 other states. We staged a meeting with Evelyn. She tried to buy me out, offered $450,000 cash, well below market, said her Korean partners were getting impatient. That's when I realized the real estate game was just the cover. The money was international, and the scheme was way bigger. The intimidation got uglier. They swapped out my fake bug for real Intel-grade gear and threatened my neighbor Henderson's grandson, Tommy. Within an hour, the boy went missing, straight-up kidnapping, now federal territory. The FBI set up a sting. I met Evelyn in Riverside Park. She was there with muscle-real pros, not rent-a-cops, and calmly told me Tommy's safety depended on my cooperation. She even brought up my sister Sarah, told me my family had been targeted on purpose as a psychological test run. That was the last straw. I signaled the feds, who closed in and arrested everyone. Tommy was found safe. Evelyn and her crew cuffed and loaded into cruisers. Turns out the Korean partners were using real estate as a front for laundering millions in dirty crypto cash. My fight had blown open a federal case, 12 states, $200 million, dozens of arrests. They tried to drag my sister into the dirt, told me she'd been paid off, but the FBI traced it. She'd been duped, thinking she was doing legit surveys. In the end, she helped map the network nationwide, and together we worked with the FBI to smash up 23 more operations. Henry and Martha got restitution. Cedar Point became famous for the Dobson Protocol. Nobody gets in without triple ID, and my electric fence now gives a voice warning, "Attention trespassers, prepare for enlightenment." My app Scam Spotter hit 100,000 downloads in the first month. Evelyn got 35 years. Her mentor got 25. Tommy's the neighborhood mascot. Now Henry runs the watch, and my once quiet cabin became the epicenter of rural security innovation. And you know what? We're tighter as a community now than we ever were before. 6 months after the trial, a package landed on my porch, another USB drive. Anonymous note, a tip about Phoenix Holdings in Nevada, a real heavyweight. My sister grinned and said, "Another road trip." I laughed. "Only if you're helping with the electric fences this time." Tommy ran up asking if we could wire the playground for bullies. "There's better ways to fight bullies," I told him. "Let me show you some psychological warfare. Look, I know some of you out there are dealing with your own HOA nightmares. I've been there, the letters, the threats, the helplessness. But trust me, you're not alone. You fight back, you document, you build community. Sometimes the good guys do win. So tell me, what would you have done in my shoes? Drop your stories in the comments. And if this made you feel just a little less alone, hit that subscribe. The war's not over, but at least now we know how to fight.